Okay, Deuteronomy 6, starting early in the word. For centuries in America, the Bible was the primary textbook utilized by students who became America's greatest scientists, teachers, statesmen, ministers, businessmen, and military leaders. Occasionally, someone would suggest that something other than the Bible would be a more appropriate core textbook, but suggestions were routinely rejected by the founding fathers. Fisher Ames, who helped frame the Bill of Rights in the first federal Congress, addressed this issue in an article he published entitled School Books. He began by commenting on a recent trend he had observed in American education. It has been the custom of late years to put a number of little books into the hands of children containing fables and moral lessons. But Ames noted that each time a new school book was placed into the classroom, time was spent on it, thus reducing the time spent by students on the Bible. The overall effect was that the Bible was gradually drifting to the back of the classroom, and to this Ames strongly objected. Why then, if these books for children must be retained, as they will be, should not the Bible regain the place it once held as a school book? Its morals are pure, its examples captivating and noble. The reverence for the sacred book that is thus early impressed lasts long, and probably, if not impressed in infancy, never takes firm hold of the mind. Of course, Fisher Ames was living proof of the benefits of the Bible-based education. He learned to read the Bible early, and when he was only 6 years old, had already began to study of Latin. When 12, he passed the entrance exam to Harvard, graduating when he was 16 and then becoming a teacher. Ames, like so many others before and after him, had blossomed under the Bible-centered education. Interestingly, the pages of American history are filled with similar accounts of American heroes who got an early start in the Bible. For example, when signer of the Declaration, John Witherspoon, was 4 years old, he had already finished reading the Bible from cover to cover, and while still a child, he could recite nearly all the New Testament by memory. Founding Father John Trumbull, a justice of the Supreme Court of Connecticut, also had finished reading through the Bible by the time he was 4. When famous author Harriet Beecher Stowe, author of the abolitionist classic Uncle Tom's Cabin, was 7 years old, she had already memorized 27 hymns and several chapters of the Bible. And when the great Daniel Webster, the defender of the Constitution, was just a young lad, his school teacher, James Tappan, reported, I held up a handsome new jackknife to the scholars and said the boy who would commit to memory the greatest number of verses in the Bible by Monday morning should have it. Many of the boys did well, but when it came to Daniel's turn to recite, I found that he had committed so much to memory that after hearing him repeat some 60 or 70 verses, I was obliged to give up. He telling me that there were several chapters yet that he had learned, Daniel got that jackknife. The Bible was the primary text for all of these accomplished students. Signer of the Declaration, Benjamin Rush, was another founder who strongly objected to not using the Bible as the principal textbook in schools. And in 1791, he published a work offering numerous reasons why it must remain America's premier school text, including, in the 6th chapter of Deuteronomy, we find the following words which are directly to my purpose. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently until the children, and thou shalt talk and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou lie down, and when thou risest up. The learning of the Jews for many years consisted in nothing but a knowledge of the Scriptures, but the benefits of an early and general acquaintance with the Bible were not confined only to the Jewish nations. They have appeared in many countries in Europe since the Reformation. The industry and habits of order which distinguish many of the German nations are derived from their early instruction in the principles of Christianity by means of the Bible. The moral and enlightened character of inhabitants of Scotland and of the New England states appear to be derived from the same cause. The Bible should be read in schools in preference to all other books. History demonstrates that children are capable of learning much more and at a much earlier age than what we in this generation have been led to think. And if God told us in Deuteronomy 6 to educate our children in His Word at an early age, it is because He knew that they would flourish under this early intake of His Word. Let's obey the scriptural mandate and begin children and students very early in reading and learning His Word.